oil they got in there. Is it on?
All right, so what were we talking about?
Well, we're going to talk about the 3 most important aspects of leading up to FIRE for the young family. They haven't fired yet, but they want to know what are the important things that they need to know before they even start firing. And I think that number 1, walking fast on the trail, taking our daily walk. Yeah, you got to do this when you get older. I notice when we just sit around and not really do anything, you don't want to do anything. Right, honey? Yeah, I see that smile.
All right, well, welcome to Frank and Angie's channel, where we talk about all things retire earlier and better, whether it's at home or abroad. And so, yeah, we're talking about young families and what they can do. And this is a really interesting and important subject, because we get to look back and do a flashback and say, okay, well, and if you don't know, you might want to see our other videos that we made on this. It's called What's Wrong with FIRE. We made that about a year ago. And, you know, because we see people that in this community that they make sacrifices, which there's nothing wrong with making sacrifices, but they're putting their life on the back burner as a couple, okay? And that's what we're talking about today, is couples, families, young families. And a lot of times what they're doing is they've got these financial goals that they're working towards, and you put your nose to the grindstone, these are all normally good things to do. But what happens is when they do the 2 working spouse thing, where they're doing the FIRE thing, it's always great. Superficially, all of these things are good things. There's nothing wrong with them in and of themselves. But when you look at the complete picture of how it affects the marriage relationship and the families, where it puts a lot of strain on it, you see a lot of folks, some folks that achieve their financial goals, and yet their marriage relationship disintegrates. So this is one of the things that people don't realize that are the consequences of not putting their priorities in order. And that's one of the decisions. The decision that we made years ago was that we weren't going to do that. We weren't not going to, you know, put other aspects of our life at risk in order to achieve a particular financial goal. So where does that leave people? You know, if we have to be a one worker household, we're not going to reach our FIRE goals, right? But that's not necessarily the case, because what is FIRE really about anyway? It's what we talk about: financial independence and retire early lifestyle. You know, it's like bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush. If you've got the lifestyle, you're there, man. You know?
chocolate rolls.
There we go. Oh.
They're made with
Ecuadorian cocoa.
Ecuadorian cacao.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the sweetener, we used sugar cane sweetener.
Alright, 4 minutes.
No, that one's mine.
Alright. So, with that said, we want to give you 3 ways to help you achieve the lifestyle and at least get as close as possible to it in the here and now.
And you and I did these 3 things, and that's where I came up with them.
So this is walking the talk. This is our life experience,
That's
which
right.
is what we typically share in our videos.
And number 1 is don't spend all the money you make.
And number 1, covered in another video, you know, not spending everything you make. This is just a virtuous kind of habit that people are being encouraged to embrace, is to think about how to not spend everything you make.
Should we talk about the irrational spending of being emotionally down or something, and then
There-
people go out and spend money to make themselves feel better, but it doesn't last
There
very
are
long.
other aspects and other ways in which emotions affect people, and the other way is using emotional buying in order to fill some sort of a void. The reason for the void needs to be analyzed. It takes introspection. A person needs to spend time realizing, stopping themselves when they're doing it and thinking, how am I feeling right now? A lot of times emotions are there to, people are either resisting some sort of a new paradigm or something that's attacking their belief, or they're using it to fill some sort of emotional void. And so it's important to stop, and when you're engaging in the behavior, just asking yourself, how am I feeling at this moment? And just really stop. Don't make it really quick. Really stop and keep thinking about it until you get the answer. You may not have the answer right away because it's buried deep down in your emotions. In order to get to the other side, you've got to dig deep.
Well, you're making an improvement in yourself if you don't get in the car and drive to the shopping mall
Yeah,
to get what you want.
don't ignore it. But when because some of these things happen without thinking. They're just they become
Exactly.
habitual. And so when you're doing it, you just recognize that you're doing it and stop and then think and analyze. How are you feeling? And why were you feeling that way? And you just learn a lot about yourself. And a lot of times you'll just become a better person over it, But you know that it's there because you're giving away all your financial value to everybody else, and you end up with just used stuff anyway that is worth 80 to 90% less than what you paid for it. This should help you analyze and become introspective and figure it out, and be able to move forward into your new paradigm, your new belief that will lead to your happiness, because you will be more financially free. What was the number 2 thing?
Well, number 2 is learn the skills to have one of the spouses be able to stay home and save money that way. It really works. It really does, instead of having both spouses working.
And again, this just plays everything works together for good. It's symbiotic. The first thing people think about is, gee, if one of us is going to stay home, then the first thing they think about is the loss of income.
It's so much better for the family.
But what's
Anyway.
not considered is that it costs less to stay home than it is to have work. And a lot of people do consider it because there's been books written about it. But just as an encouragement in this video is to say that, look, all the money that you have to spend to have an additional vehicle, to pay for babysitting, to pay for extra clothing, for extra lunches, the taxes, the this, the that, the insurance, the car payments. When you take all of that into account, you start realizing that, well, wait a minute, we could actually save all of that money. But not only that, on top of saving all of that money, we now have one spouse at home that has the free time and the
free time to learn
the free time
and other
to
things.
actually build up the household. And so
Exactly.
it starts becoming no more, it's not anymore about the loss of income. It actually becomes, look at all this money we won't have to produce, all the hours we won't have to work and create stress in the home, and all the extra time and effort we can put into actually making our home prosperous. So once you put that all together as a recipe, then you can start seeing what a great idea it really is once you put your mind to it.
It's so much better for the marriage and for the children, and just as the whole family unit as a whole. Everybody's just much more relaxed and not stressed out.
And we would love to have an area of support and a membership area that we're for people that want to encourage one another and actually learn real skills and methods and techniques of doing these kinds of things, so that you can have the abundant lifestyle without the deprivation and the austerity.
Exactly.
What was the third thing?
The third thing, of course, is stay out of debt. And if you're in debt, get out ASAP. Because as long as you're in debt, you're never going to make it to FIRE. It's
And
not
I think
going
a
to
lot
happen.
of times people justify debt because there's two working spouses and they seem to have more income for it. And, oh, well, we're going to need the extra car and this and that and this and that. Well, again, we just come back to the beginning and say, no, all that does is take away from the real picture that you're trying to achieve, which is the lifestyle. And so it becomes actually easier to stay out of debt and maybe even pay off debt.
Exactly.
At the very least, you would be enjoying your lifestyle at the same time that you're staying out of debt. So what we really like about this lifestyle is the flexibility that it gives us. Because let's face it, if you put yourself in a box and say, well, I can't do these things until I reach this level, by default that means that you aren't going to do those things until you reach that level. But instead, we believe in doing those things now. And the flexibility that this lifestyle gives us to be able to do things like live in Ecuador and then all of a sudden we're in Italy, or all of a sudden we're in Panama. Not on a nomadic level, but on a level that says doing whatever makes the most sense for us, for the family today. You know, today, this month, this year, right now. And so that's one of the advantages. And there's nothing wrong with making a double take, and if you think you can pay that debt off in a short amount of time, and make sacrifices. But what we're saying is, working towards the ideal end goal of the lifestyle immediately, right away, would actually assist you in doing that by keeping a lower stress level within the home, and it actually works together symbiotically for everyone in the home because it's a supportive measure where one of the spouses being home can be more supportive, and there's less stress, and then that debt being paid off. It doesn't have to be done in such a way that your foundations are shaky and everything collapses. Actually, we've been there, done that in all of these areas. We just didn't spend very much time there. We didn't dwell in these areas. We moved forward and progressed out of them quickly. Why? Because we had the vision, okay, that's one of the skills, is to have the vision to have the ideal, the end result that you're trying to achieve, and be determined to achieve it in the here and now, and not as a distant future achievement where we have to put our lives on the back burner between this point and that point. Everything about American culture and our lives is all about putting things off, just the retirement, the this, the that, the health, your salvation. When you die, you go to heaven. Look,
good point.
Heaven is now. If you believe that, it can be now. So, that's a whole other conversation.
We're buying antibacterial spray.
But we've been there, done that. We're telling you from our experience. But thanks for staying with us on the video, And do subscribe to the channel and support the channel. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. Thank you and have a nice day.
Bye.